Hello, Internet, and welcome to our podcast.
Where we talk about movies and pop culture, and despite 4 years of film school, what I don't know about movies and cinema will shock you.
I know too much. It puts me in real danger.
Tweet us and tell us what movies you'd like us to talk about on the Whiskey and Sweet Tea Show at The Wast Show. That's the W-A-S-T Show.
I'm Whiskey.
I'm Sweet Tea.
Let's do this. Welcome, everybody. This is Whiskey.
And this is Sweet Tea.
And this is our train wreck of a first episode. I can promise all of you our show is being held together with paper clips and rubber bands, but we are chugging forward.
I mean, that's not that far off. Our sound blanket's being held up with shirt pins that my friend used to work at Guess had.
We're coming to you guys live from a janitor's closet. How are you today, T?
I am doing pretty well. I'm excited to talk about what we want to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about, movies and what's the word? It's when it's like movie-adjacent topics.
Yes, pop culture, I think, is the word you're looking for. But, it's funny. I was worried with this being our first episode and us being a bit behind with seeing all the movies that people might have already seen them. But with the current situation, a lot of you guys back at home might be locked in your house. So, when everything finally blows over, at least you'll know what's worth going to check out.
The younger members of our audience might want to ask their parents if this is similar to Y2K.
It probably was.
So instead of us, providing opinions about movies, we're providing opinions about what DVDs or Blu-rays you should buy in 3 months.
Absolutely, assuming none of these are, in theaters within the next month. But I actually suspect a few of them might be.
I do too. So let's get everything.
Well, I thought we would start the show off. St. Paddy's Day is just around the corner, and what is more St. Paddy's Day than leprechauns? I know what you were going to think, T.
Yeah.
You thought I was going to talk about Jameson.
Yeah, well, that is your drink of choice,
Yes, well, the magical creature that often goes unnoticed in most movies.
Unless you watched Bonanza.
Surprisingly, there's actually quite a few characters, and I thought we would test T's knowledge of leprechauns today. What we've got today is a segment that I haven't decided to name yet. We'll call it Which is Which? Is this real? I don't know. But basically, I have got a list of famous leprechauns from certain movies. The catch, T, is that some of them are not real. So this is going to be a little game we're playing with T where we see if he can figure out which leprechauns are made up and which ones are from real movies that actually happened. So
I mean, the only leprechaun I'm super familiar with is the fighting leprechaun, from like Notre Dame. I don't know. I'm sure super into that.
In my research, there's so many more than I wasn't aware of, and things like I'm sure probably the one everyone's heard of is the one from The Simpsons that's always telling Ralph to burn things. But I stuck to movies. So there actually, I'm sure there was a Twilight Zone episode with a leprechaun. There was all sorts of ones, but these are strictly from movies. So are you ready, T?
I'm ready. I guess I'm ready, so hold on. Let me get some more of my tea here. All right, Whiskey, what up?
All right, so I'm going to basically describe the character and the film. And you just, once I'm finished, I'll ask you if you think it's a real movie or not, and I'll let you know if you got it right.
Okay, plot, theory, is this just a way for you to show off how much more you know about movies than I do?
My computer at home is just rotten with search history of leprechauns, so some of these I was honestly shocked existed. So we'll
all right.
I made it nice and difficult for you.
Okay,
all right,
okay.
So
okay.
the first famous film Leprechaun is named Lubden, and he's the star of the Leprechaun slasher series of horror films. And in his films, when his gold is stolen, he resorts to picking off anyone who gets in his way with grisly magical murders. His only weakness, however, is a 4-leaf clover, and he was made famous by the actor Warwick Davis.
Okay, so I have heard of the Leprechaun film series. I've seen, I think, a total of 38 seconds of it when it was on at a bar like 2 St. Patrick's Day ago. Okay, so unless this is going to be super tricky, I'm assuming that is a real one.
You are correct.
Yes!
That was actually
Yes!
a warm-up, because I feel like even if you don't watch horror movies, you've probably heard of Lubden, even if you don't know his name's Lubden, and I'm probably mispronouncing it because I didn't even know he had a name.
Well, it's okay. Theory is Lubden and the Leprechaun series just where John Wick got all of his ideas from?
How so?
Well, I mean, it's basically some guy who goes on slashing people because they took his gold. Isn't like John Wick.
John Wick is like, they murder his dog, from what I understand. I actually haven't seen John Wick, people, and you can yell about that to me on our Twitter. But from what I understand, they kill his dog and he gets mad and goes on his John Wick rampage. But anyway, that is a different time. So T is 1 for 1.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. So our next leprechaun is named Og, and he is the leprechaun from Finian's Rainbow. It's a musical film directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And Og
one of my favorite people.
pursues the titular Finian after he steals Og's pot of gold and emigrates to America. And he's portrayed by Tommy Steele.
Okay, I feel like I've heard of something like this. I don't know if this is the one. Okay. Let me see. So Og. Wait, what's the movie called again?
Finian's Rainbow.
Finian's Rainbow. I'm gonna go ahead and go with a yes on that one.
Boom! I bet you didn't know Francis Ford Coppola directed a musical Leprechaun movie.
Sadly, I think that's the only reason why I know about that movie.
You're doing better than I thought you would, because I figured you would have gotten that one wrong. So T's 2 for 2. Good job. All right, here's a good one. Okay, so this famous leprechaun is named Caelan O'Shan, and he's from the dark comedy The Rotten Luck, where a gambling addict named Sean Walsh catches Caelan using his stash of cocaine and bets him in a soccer match. He wins big, but must now contend with the bad luck stemming from his heinous bet. Caelan is played by Peter Dinklage in this cult crime thriller directed by Jonathan Glazer.
First off, I love Peter Dinklage in anything he does. He's awesome. And he's fun. Have you ever seen him in an interview? Anyway.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Okay, so wait, what is the name of the leprechaun again?
The name is Caelan O'Shan, and the film is called The Rotten Luck.
Okay, I'm gonna say no because Caelan O'Shan just sounds like, I don't know. That sounds too Irish, unless it's a parody. I don't know. I'm gonna say no, not real.
Gotcha. You win.
Wait,
that is one of my fake ones. So you're 3 for 3. All
right, what's next?
Okay, so Nobby is actually sort of a leprechaun. He's a gnome from Disney's classic musical, The Gnome-Mobile, and he's played by Walter Brennan. Nobby wishes to set his son Jasper up with a gnome wife before he disappears from existence from a lack of will to live. They set out on a journey through the Redwood National Park with a human family driving a Rolls Royce, which they eventually start calling the Gnome-Mobile.
Okay, that first off was one of the weirdest movies I've ever heard. That's even weirder than, the Coppola Leprechaun musical. Let me see. Wait, what year is this movie allegedly made?
I believe it was in the 50s. I should have written down years for all of these.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't help me. Okay, Nobby, classic Disney film. I don't know. I'm going to say no, not real.
Ooh, gotcha.
That one's real?
Gotcha. All right, so T was on a roll, but I finally got him. Yes, there's a movie called The Gnome-Mobile. It's a musical. It's actually got the 2 kids from Mary Poppins in it.
Jane and Michael?
It is utterly bizarre. I only even knew about it because I somehow saw it as a kid. And it didn't even come up in my leprechaun search, probably because it's gnomes, but I felt like if there was any way I could trick T with a real movie, that would have to be one of them.
Well, okay, Jane and Michael, I don't think I've ever seen them in anything else. Like I thought the guy who played Michael quit acting. I don't know, maybe that was one of those urban legends that was all over, Facebook whenever
it's
it was
entirely
just everybody dies.
Honestly, it's the only other film I've ever seen them in, so it's entirely possible. So this famous leprechaun is named Ryan Merriman, and he's only half leprechaun in this Disney Channel original movie played magnificently by Kyle Johnson. Ryan must find out who stole his family's Lucky Charm before.
Look at the Irish.
And that was another easy one I thought I'd throw in there to be fair.
Okay,
All right,
so growing up, my brother, like, so my family has this obsession with Notre Dame. He was, like, super into, like, Irish things, and so every year when that movie would come on, that was, like, his movie. He'd have to watch it. It was a whole... That's the only reason why I knew this. That's why I knew the name. I knew the Disney Channel original. I'm like, I know where this is going.
In all of the cheeses in France, there's nothing cheesier than a good Disney Channel original movie.
I mean...
And some of them, the 13th Year is an excellent one. There's Smart House. There's Double Teamed. We could do a whole episode on that stuff.
There's Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century.
First two. The third one is terrible, but yes.
I don't remember the third one.
That's why it's terrible. All right, so... All right, unfortunately, this leprechaun does not appear to have a name, but it was featured in the film Red Clover, renamed to Leprechaun's Revenge, and it's played by Kevin Mangold. And it goes on a homicidal rampage in the town of Keating, Massachusetts, after the sheriff's daughter accidentally releases him from his bondage.
Wait. Okay, so he goes on a homicidal rampage, and the actor's name is Kevin Mangold.
Yep.
Oh.
Mangold, like
Mangold.
Mangold.
Yeah, but it sounds like mangled, like you mangle some people. I'm gonna say yes, that's real.
Yep.
Okay.
It is true, and it was called Leprechaun's Revenge on the Sci-Fi Channel. I guess they purchased it and decided to make it a.
Is it like an unofficial edition of the Leprechaun?
No.
Okay.
Completely different Leprechaun, but it's
I have
very
some bones
similar.
to pick with Sci-Fi about their movie choices.
All right, here is one. So this leprechaun is named Eileen Byrne, and it's played by Fiona Shaw. You might know her as Mrs. Dursley from the Harry Potter movies and the Lifetime original movie Top of the Morning.
Oh, I love Lifetime movies.
After falling in love with a human named Samuel Ryan, a popular morning talk show host, Eileen uses her magic to secure a co-host position and charm Samuel.
Okay. Top of the Morning. That sounds like a Lifetime movie. I don't know. I think it sounds too fun for Lifetime. There was no, like, weird cheating angle or, some, like, bizarre murder they have to live through. I'm going to say no, that's not real.
You are correct.
Yes! I told you it was too happy to be a Lifetime movie.
I gotta say, T is very hard to fool. This is gonna be fun going forward if we continue this. Oh, here we go. So this leprechaun is King Brian Connors, played by Jimmy O'Dea from Darby O'Gill and the Little People. It's another Walt Disney classic, and King Brian owns a Stradivarius violin for some reason, which he plays for Darby when they do a musical number in the movie. After capturing Darby so that he can avoid the shame of telling his daughter he lost his job. Before tricking the leprechauns into escaping and returning home.
No, I don't like that one. I don't think it was real.
You don't like that one?
I don't like that one, no.
That's actually a far more well-known Disney flick than the No Mobile. It's actually a classic. It's so it features near the end, there's a famous scene with a banshee that a lot of people often say was like the scariest thing they saw as children.
I thought the scariest thing we saw as children was that truck driver in the Pee-wee movie.
Oh, there's that one. Dude, there's the tunnel from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But yeah, so it is a real movie. All right, well, you win. I think you only got 2 wrong out of 8. So that is a definite win for you, T. I'm actually quite impressed.
Do I get a pot of gold for my win? All right, okay. So, speaking of St. Patrick's Day, there are other movies besides ones that star leprechauns or people from Ireland that, I consider great watches or, like, what you think you should watch. So that's why I think for St. Patrick's Day movies, what a must-watch is you have to watch at least one heist movie. Now, for me, it's usually Ocean's 11.
I'm going to be bold and say that someone needs to make a leprechaun heist movie.
Actually, what?
Worlds need to collide on that.
I mean, if you really want to think about it, that one movie, I forget which one you're talking about. Oh, the Leprechaun franchise, They Take His Gold. That's a heist movie. I mean, well, no, it's not. It's more of a revenge movie, I guess.
I guess.
If it was focused more on the stealing from the leprechaun, it would be a heist movie.
Yeah, and also if you were supposed to empathize with the leprechaun and not Jennifer Aniston running for her life in the first one.
Jennifer Aniston was in the first one?
Yeah, dude. It was like, I forget if it was right after or right before Friends, but it was definitely...
That's actually hilarious.
She was a scream queen in that one. But did the Isabella Stewart Gardner heist actually happen on St. Patrick's Day?
It did. So
that's crazy.
So basically, after the museum had closed, I think it was like around midnight. So technically, it's the 18th or something. I forget what the exact times. Don't quote me on the exact times. But it was over. It was that somewhere overnight. You know, when essentially, if you know anything about Boston, they love to drink. So if you ever want to commit a crime in Boston, the perfect time is late St. Patrick's Day because everyone is just unconscious. So essentially what happened is these two people dressed as policemen came to the museum. They knocked on the door and they claimed there was a disturbance that they needed to look at. So they came in, they took the guards hostage that had them up, put them in the basement, got them away from the one button in the museum that would alert the police, which is at the watch desk. And then they proceeded to go through and they took 13 paintings from the museum, which is, and the one they took is really, really, really odd because they weren't even really like, I mean, they were famous and they were worth money, but they like passed up a lot of other really, really expensive ones. And then they didn't even go into the gallery that had the most valuable painting in the city of Boston. They took 13 paintings. They took 13 things from the museum. They took paintings and they took, I think, some sort of vase, and they took a finial. Do you know what a finial is?
I don't think so.
Okay, if you ever go to like a really like high-end place where they have curtains and they have curtain rods, the little things stuck on the ends that are pretty. They felt the need to take a finial. Like they took basically there's a whole the whole case is just bizarre.
It's funny. I've been to the museum. Mm-hmm. I've heard of the story. The only time I've ever really seen it play out was a very excellent episode of Drunk History on Comedy Central.
Oh yeah, I forgot they did a version of it.
That's honestly, it's funny. I guess I probably didn't ask anyone at the museum. I'm sure they'd be willing to tell the story. But yeah, like it's funny, when I was there I didn't feel the need to like ask. But it sounds like there's a lot of details. It's kind of a shame they've never made a movie about it.
I wanted to look up in preparation for this. I wanted to look up a movie and watch it and be like, hey, this is a definite sort of thing. They've never actually done a Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum movie.
Are you listening, Hollywood?
Yeah, make a movie. And just make sure it's not done make sure it's not done by anybody that I don't like.
No, but so tell me, like, what are some of the more interesting details that you were able to dig up in your research? So
one of the things that I think is a close friend of Whiskey's and mine's, actually, she told me this. So if you go to the museum, you have, and you're walking through the galleries, you will see there's just empty frames, they never took down the frames. So that if you go there, you can still see the frames where these hung. And the reasoning is that Isabella Stewart Gardner, when I guess she left the museum to, I think it's whatever her alma mater was, I think they run it, I could be wrong. She left, the stipulation is they can't move anything. So the frames are just there. And a close friend of mine actually told me, and I don't know if this is correct or not, she said that that she has in her will that if they move anything, then the artwork has to be sold and its proceeds go to benefit the school, the organization's rival. And I'm like, that's a whole nother level of petty, and I love that. I'm like, no one touched anything because it's perfect the way it is.
Yeah, like I think in the Drunk History it was like, and obviously it was being told by a drunken comedian, so who knows. But what I remember from the episode is like the thieves, like because she like bolted the things to the wall, they like cut the paintings out of the frame, like so they did. What 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 an excellent god. It's funny to think that they were so ill prepared. You would think that some thieves would actually like think ahead and be like, oh, like what if it's well, so, the whole thing is so funny. I mean, like, if you wanted to make a movie about it, these thieves are so poorly equipped and they probably didn't know what they were doing. Did they ever... That's something I'm sure you found in your research. Did they ever recover any of the artwork?
So none of the artwork has ever been recovered. They've actually had somebody come up. They did at one point receive a letter from somebody who claimed to have knowledge about it and was willing to turn it over before it was sold to somebody who doesn't know that they were stolen. And I guess we don't know what all was in the letter, but I guess because of what was in the letter, I would assume, because they took this letter seriously, I would assume that there was something in there, some sort of stuff that hadn't been released yet that they knew about. That's as close as they've gotten, but that person just kind of disappeared. They never got any money from them. They never got anything. So that's just odd. But when I was reading about this, what I thought was funny is they talk about people aren't really sure if the people who committed this crime were like criminal masterminds or if they were really like just people who got lucky because the security was like so lax there. It's interesting to in one breath have like the FBI when they looked into this say, oh, these criminals were not that smart in what they did, because if you look at what they took, their whole methods and everything, and the fact that they didn't wear masks and they kind of just confronted,
didn't even know what art to take. Honestly,
well, they didn't. Well.
I feel like one of the paintings wasn't there a Rembrandt?
Yeah, I think there was a Rembrandt that was taken. There were several Degas. I think there was a Vermeer taken.
Yikes.
And it's but essentially they said in one breath they were just like, they obviously were not master criminals. They weren't that bright. And then in another breath they were like, oh, because some people said, oh, maybe the guards were in on it. And like, well, the guards are too stupid to have pulled this off. So it's just like, were they smart or were they not smart? And if you actually, and I encourage you to look into, I forget what the guard's name is, but he's done some interviews and he's an interesting person. His reasoning for letting the police in, I think, was the fact that he didn't want to like get arrested because he had tickets for a Grateful Dead concert and he didn't want to miss it the next day or something.
That explains...
It's like priorities.
That explains his state of mind when the robbery took place, too. Here's a question. Given this colorful cast of characters, who would you, like, let's say they made a movie about this, who would you cast in each role?
Ooh, who would I cast in each role? Okay.
For the thieves, I'm going to put out there, it sounds, especially with how inept they are, I'd probably go with, like, Seth Rogen and James Franco. I'm like... Or actually, maybe for the guards, if they're, like...
Well, I was going to say Kevin James for one of the guards.
Oh, yeah.
That's...
There you go.
So I'm guessing
that's like already a money printing.
Right. It's just like people are going to see that regardless.
Yeesh.
Like, I don't know. So I guess you're saying that you would, if you were to make this movie, you would make it as a comedy, just with the cast of characters that you chose.
It depends, I guess, on if you wanted to take it from the thieves' perspective or from the guards' perspective. Although I feel like in both cases there's certainly comedic.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because the thieves were inept and so were the guards.
Yeah. So
maybe you could even make the whole movie about the actual robbery taking place in like kind of a little war between the...
I would love to see the robbers played Dreamcast, which I know is entirely impossible by the original Three Stooges.
Oh man!
And then I would love to have one of the guards be Charlie Chaplin. I don't know. I could totally see this.
If they were making it today, so Kevin James is one of the guards.
Yeah.
Who would be Isabel Stewart Gardner?
Well, Isabel Stewart Gardner's dead.
At the time the robbery took place?
This is in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
So we can have her played by a dead actress then. We'll say Elizabeth Taylor. I don't know. Elizabeth Taylor seems extra enough to just be the ghost in the background.
Oh, man, if there was a ghost in the movie. I swear, if anyone from the industry is listening, we're basically, like, feeding you ideas here.
We're giving you ideas.
This is the
make Isabel Stewart Gardner a ghost in the museum, and she kind of like not she's not her own psycho. She just is kind of just observing things and is just like upset that's going on.
So casting today, who would you pick for the thieves?
Oh, casting today, okay. Oh, I'm not good with names, which I know is terrible. I honestly feel like I could see, I don't know, who could I see in that role? I guess I could see, like, maybe I'm just thinking of Ocean's 11. I could see, like, either Brad Pitt or George Clooney in there. I could see that. But if we're going for more comedic, I could see maybe having, like, one guy that's more, like, action movie focused, and then another guy that's more comedy focused. I don't know. I'm not good with names, people. Whiskey's the one with the knowledge. I'm the one. We went to the same film school, and he walked away with more knowledge than I did.
T's very up on crime stuff, though. I'm always very intrigued with some of the true crime stuff you look up. But
So the point of this long and drawn out segment was that for St. Patrick's Day, everybody go out, watch a heist movie. Do it, support the heist industry. Because if you really think about it, they're just stealing from rich people. That's cool, that's fine. Disclaimer, we are not responsible for anything you steal. The Whiskey and Sweet Tea Show is a production of Audra Christine and La Prince Laboratories. It is edited by Sophia Sabin and produced by Audra Christine, with original artwork by Ace Esparza. Follow us on Twitter at the WAST Show and tweet at us with any topics or movies you'd like us to discuss in the future.